Hello, everyone, and welcome to Meticulous Talks on December 14th. I am, as always, Cursed Chords.
I'm Hithroc.
And, well, happy holidays, everyone. It is about a week and a half till Christmas, right?
Yeah, but not here. We celebrate New Year instead.
That's right. That's right. Anyway,
So a little bit later.
yeah. Anyway, 2 weeks ago was our review stream, and understandably, I think I'm probably still recovering from that. How about you, Hithroc?
Yeah. It's been 5 hours of
So,
cards.
yeah, we decided to take it easy this week and just show off something that we've been doing anyway, which is just building decks. As to your question, Bugle, I see you there already. Um, I don't think that any of these are explicitly holiday themed. Do they all have Fire of Friendship in them? They might. Yes, they are. They all have Fire of Friendship in them. So,
I knew I should have included Aurora Borealis.
hmm. Yeah, I don't think. Well, actually, there is a lot of purple, so there's a lot of Luna's Future too. You could make the argument that we have at least a little bit of holiday theme, but nothing explicitly, nothing actual Christmas deck, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, these are essentially just going to be a few of the decks that we are looking at and looking into and trying to fix up as we head into, well, the tournament season next year. Which, well, the first big tournament next year is Harmony, but or will be starting soon enough at some point too, anyway. So,
Yep.
shall we just get to it, I guess?
Mm-hmm.
You want to go first, or should I?
Go ahead.
Okay. So, yeah, I'm just going to go in the order that I have them, which is Unicorn Aggro first. Right. So, we spent enough time joking about it during the review stream that I figured I had to, basically, build Unicorn Aggro because everyone knew I was going to do it. And got a. Actually, this is. Well, okay. This build is actually mostly pretty old. It's actually only got a couple of Years and Legends cards in it, mostly in the events, and Headmare and Pinkie Pie. And I guess that's probably the biggest thing to talk about first is the fact that it's pink. It's getting into pink. Um, and I think the best way to say it is that pink does three really important things for Unicorn Aggro. First is that it draws you cards, which is, you tend to run out of cards real fast because you're playing stuff quickly. Second is surprise party notes. Being a zero cost event is obviously really good. If you want as cheap as you can get, zero is great. And the third thing is that it gives you more removal. Like my earlier builds of Unicorn Aggro tended to be pretty non-interactive, which was a problem when you fell behind. Um, and so uh, if you could get a turn together where you're both doing your own event thing, DFOing, and removing the opponent's stuff, that seemed like it would be a really great tempo swing to like actually establish a bit of a toehold on the game, as it were.
Yeah, it's kind of what Hot Wings doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
It goes fast, but it also disrupts the opponent
Mhm.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
So Bugle asks in chat, why no Sweetie Belle? And I'm also curious.
So, well, there's two Sweetie Bells that could conceivably go in here. I assume like there's Field Twirler and then there's the new one. Are you talking about the new one?
I think I'm talking about the one that exhausts, and for each event you can give a unicorn.
Right, Field Twirler, the one from Friends Forever.
Yeah.
That one is a legitimate option. Like this deck started off being purple white splashing pink, and now it's actually more purple pink splashing white. Um, yeah. And it's that's fair to say. I don't think I like. I just I think I'd have to see like actually play this a few times to see if how many end up in my discard pile in general, and like how far the deck goes and how quickly it can close games out. But she's probably a reasonable call to put in. Well, it's possible that Trixie shouldn't be in here for the reason that your events are always so cheap that you seldom get discounts for it for her.
Yeah.
And that would be probably the cut. Replace Trixie with Field Twirler. The thing is that like one of the interesting things is that I'm running Buckball as a starter, and it actually doesn't help really. Like Trixie is actually the only 2 purple red card in the deck. The only card
Yeah.
that we are allowed to play at the start. Um, in because we're playing Buckball, so.
And I assume you flip pretty early on with this.
That's the assumption. I mean, that's always the assumption with spell for that. You hope to. We've got a number of things we can play early to try and help that.
Yeah. I guess you could consider running Infiltrating the Hive instead.
Yeah, actually, if we in the build where you do put Field Twirler in, then Infiltrating the Hive would actually probably be correct. Get her charged up early, manage your hand. 2 is the right number to get into any of your other 2 colors,
Mm-hmm.
especially pink. Yeah. Seems like a reasonable option.
Also, another thing I'm curious is, I guess it's the same as Field Twirler, is why no Celestia? The new one.
Oh, the
Immediate banish an event, and she has +1 for each
yeah,
event that
restricted
is
section.
banished. Yeah.
She is. Well,
She's not a unicorn,
she's
but
not a
still.
unicorn. But potentially pretty good. I think that one came down mostly just to I had to cut something to get down to 45.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah. Granted,
Because, yeah.
So like, Headmare is one card that I look at. Yeah, I mean, sure, a lot of these events are good to duplicate. None of them necessarily win you the game when you duplicate them. So, and given that Twilight is flipping independent of entry, I could potentially get rid of her.
It's just like looking at this deck, and while it is a unicorn aggro, other than Trixie, there isn't actually much of unicorn synergies going on. So wouldn't that really matter if Celestia is an unicorn?
I see. Good point. Now that you mention it.
Yeah, like I see only Hyper Beam and Trixie, and I think that's it.
Yeah. Should probably find a way to get detention into here as well if focusing on the
Yeah, the tension can be pretty good.
I guess I just kind of lost the thread of it being a unicorn deck when I was.
Well, it's still all unicorns.
It is all unicorns. It just doesn't have a reason to be. Yeah. Well, that's part of the pleasure of the theme we're working on here. Is these decks are necessarily kind of rough drafts, so.
Yeah.
Opinions appreciated.
Yeah, so Sweetie Belle does have Unicorn Harmony. If you replace it with Trixie, you leave with the same amount of harmony.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like Sweetie Belle is a thing. I don't think you run Sweetie Belle and Celeste in one deck because they're kind of counterproductive towards each other. Like one banishes events, and the other cares about events in discard pile.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It
I think you either run one or the other, but not.
well, I mean, Celestia can banish the opponent's events.
Yeah, but not that many decks play that many events.
It remains to be seen. Yeah, certainly in an aggro environment,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of events to go around. You know, unless they're all playing this kind of aggro, I guess. Um, yeah, that might come down to us getting a better look at what the rest of the meta is going to look like.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't think I have any other comments other than cool deck. I like that you're doing unicorns.
Like I said, we spent so much time on it during the review stream. I knew someone would be mad if I didn't try it again. Okay, so you wanted to do your Thorax deck first, right?
Yeah. Let's go with that.
All right, take it away.
So this is a purple, pink, white deck because Catchy Song is really, really good, and Thorax plus Brian have this very little fun interaction. Is that your board is pretty much immune as long as you have enough tokens. Well, it's not immune to like everything. It still can be frightened or put on top of the deck. But against most of the things, Brian protects the thing, and you can stop Brian from leaving play with Thorax by retiring a single critter. Or not necessarily critter, any token friend really. And having like that idea and seeing that the song is very good and helps us both find Thorax and put it into play if we want to, I decided to build this 3-color deck. It was the first Leaders and Legends deck I ever built. Like, this is like the first thing I've built after the set was released.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the main gist of it, is that you have a lot of creators, and preferably you want to have Thorax and Brian and play both at the same time. And because we might use Brian for like resource removal or something else, this is why we have things like tender taps, so we can bring stuff back. And there's a lot of things you can bring back in this deck. It's like, I think,
it's everything
except Pushdown
for,
Citizen
yeah, Thorax and
and
Pushdown.
Thorax, yeah, you can bring back everything. And that's really good. And like Bodyguard is like a natural inclusion because you're playing ping, things are going to leave play, and unicorn tokens are also tokens, so they synergize with Thorax.
Hmm?
And this deck is kind of like mid-rangey deck. It tries to aggro, but it can do a little bit of disruption as well. So yeah, the main idea is spam board with critters and get Thorax and Brian into play. And if the Thorax Brian thing fails, or you're playing against aggro deck who doesn't disrupt you much, you can just do aggro things too because you have a lot of critters and your Thorax has a lot of power.
Mm-hmm. And for that matter, if you manage to get Treehouse into play, that's a bit of a bomb as well.
Yeah. Though, I was actually like thinking about this deck, and there's one big glaring issue here, is that it has 0 Middlebrooks. And I think like the cards that would cut for Middlebrooks here are probably Treehouse or Bunyip. But like that's the first thought. Maybe something else. I don't know. But as you said, this is like a draft. I have played this deck a couple of times. It's been alright, especially when you get the thing down and you're playing against other like heavy removal deck. It's really good.
Yeah.
So I actually consider, so the way I usually build decks is that I go through the cards and I like add into the deck everything that seems to be fitting, and then I cut down the cards until I get to 45. And Goldie Delicious, she just didn't make the cut because I felt like this deck generates as much like critters as it needs already. Like it can get enough critters if it needs to. But maybe like Goldie Delicious is a thing to consider here. Like, depends really, but I don't know what I would count for it really. It's really hard counting to 45. Really hard.
Yeah, don't I know it? Yeah, Cluj Town is a card that I hadn't uh, given much thought to building new stuff, but
Oh, so
it
the reason you run Cluj Town is you discard Thorax and then you play the
yeah
song to bring him back.
yeah like you want Thorax in your discard pile anyway, and uh, Thorax
Yeah,
gives you the entry for everything on the Cluj Town. So yeah, it's a really strong opener with a confront to flip main.
yeah, you can do it on like turn 3 if you really want, or turn 2 if you're playing against aggro.
And given that we're in yellow, we have well Sans Meadowbrook. We have lots of ways to deal with Grogar.
Yeah. So so you can see that this deck doesn't actually have much things against troublemakers. It only has T with Discord and Friends Always There. But that's because Thorax usually gets pretty big and you can just beat their troublemakers with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think so I would still include Middlebrooks here, probably. But like other than that, I don't think this deck really needs anything else that busts names because Thorax can do it on his own.
Yeah, just a couple of Meadowbrooks probably. And the best thing about Meadowbrook, well, yeah, about Meadowbrook especially, is that it's one of Yellow's big strengths is that it has ways to deal with troublemakers in all three friend, resource, and event slots. So Mimics doesn't really work almost
Yeah,
against Yellow. So
and that's why Middlebrook is so good because Mimics can't even touch it. It's always free.
yeah, seems good.
So yeah, that's my little deck that I've built.
Yeah.
I don't like playing against yellow pink, but I do like playing it.
Well, that's the way it should be for all the colors. Like my problem is that if I tried to build yellow pink, I'd have to put strawberry in, and then I'd end up with a less good deck probably.
But yeah, if this deck is good enough is remains to be seen. But
Yeah.
I've been having fun with it. Like I've played it a couple of times and it's been fun.
Okay. So, both of us have purple blue decks next,
Yeah.
I think. So let me just go back to me.
So you really like the new purple main.
Yeah, this kind of seemed like the best one to use. Like this started out being mono actually. This is I remember through like Sequestria and Friends Forever, I had been talking a lot in the adventure articles. Sorry again, those I hope to get start those up again in the new year about a purple aggro deck that focused on face-offs, focused on taking advantageous single face-offs, and so this deck was really starting out with just okay, find all the purple cards that move opponent stuff, so that I can force them into face-offs, and then later on I was like, oh yeah, Ultimate Organizers does that, so maybe I should throw in a little bit of blue. If I'm working on face-offs, Daybreaker is a great card, and then yeah, just kind of morphed into a purple blue deck from there. But the focus is still on um, those kind of unexpected. Oh yeah, I'm gonna move all your stuff to this front. Well, not all of the stuff. Enough stuff that just so that you're confronting it, and then we can have our face off. Note that the problem deck is as many 2 bonus point problems as I could find.
You should splash into white for Trixie.
Fair, yeah. Sorry, which
Yeah, I'm not
Trixie?
serious. She's huh? She costs 7,
Oh,
but she moves
that white Trixie.
everyone
Yeah,
to
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she's
I
a
forgot
redeem
about.
one. So
Yeah, you mentioned white. I'm like, there are no Trixies in white, are there? No, yes,
there is a Trixie.
that one. Yeah, but yeah, I'm happy to finally have a deck with enough stuff in it that I could justify maybe putting Storm King in. I, was so impressed with that card during the pre-release, and then no one used it. So
So expensive.
it is so expensive. But
But yeah, I guess in this deck it does
yeah,
pay off for itself. Unless they remove it, but if they remove it, it's okay. That means you get to keep a Daybreak.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
So yeah, blue purple is one of my favorite color combinations, and forcing face-offs is an interesting idea, and I've never actually seen anyone building a deck around this idea. I've only seen people like applying it in their games like spontaneously, like because they can, and that's like a good play. But I haven't seen anyone build a deck around it, so that's quite interesting.
yeah. It's all of purple's movement. Well, not all of purple's movement. A good amount of purple's movement is just general purpose stuff around wherever you want. Even burning bridges. Fine play to. Oh, he just set a DFO. Okay, I that's an interesting idea. Just to take 2 stuff from their home and move it to a problem or whatever. But yeah,
So why there's a spell for that? Why not something like Selena or the new Rainbow Dash main?
right,
Why purple main?
right. So that was kind of an artifact of the fact that I started the deck off with purple. Let me see if I were to switch it over to a blue main instead. What? Sorry, what's the new what's the new Dash's flip condition again? It's like 2
You
things.
need to have 3 characters with different power. So if your dash is 1, you need also
Right.
something else is like 2 or 3 or
Something
4
with
and 5.
2 and something with 3. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Gotta admit, actually, yeah. Like full disclosure, I built this thing like this morning. So I was maybe a little bit rushed, but yeah, Dash it actually makes a lot of sense. Like as I said, it started off as purple because I knew most of the important cards were going to be purple, and we do have 4 Rec and say a Storm King there.
Yeah, that's fair.
But given that we'll focus on face off, etc., you're running staff regardless. There's there's definitely value in approaching it from the blue side as well. It becomes
Actually, let me read the new dash. I wonder if she triggers if you move opposing character. She does. When you move a character to any problem for the first time each turn, you may move another one of your characters with 1 less power to the same problem. So
wow.
you might do some crazy shenanigans by moving opposing character and moving one of yours.
Well, okay, that sounds real fun. May have just convinced me to give it a go.
Yeah, it's just like the main thing with there's a spell for that is that people usually, or at least, well, not it's early to say that people usually run her with something, but
Yeah,
I think like her main advantage comes from you stacking the deck so you get the thing you want.
yeah,
And here it's like more or less random.
yeah. This deck used to have Sunset in it, but she got cut, so now there's no Meticulous at all. So yeah, fair point. I guess in blue, your resource removal becomes a little bit harder to reach. It's just in this future, but eh,
Yeah,
that's a weak argument. I mean, having to reach for resource removal is no like new thing for blue. Blue decks still work, and obviously in blue, Daybreaker becomes a much harder, a much easier thing to get as well. I mean, I guess I could run Hyper Beam.
yeah. I
I'm
mean, you can play around with it and see what works best.
a little short on unicorns in the current build, but Could work, I
Yeah, so
guess.
as Beagle points out in the chat, you can run Hyper Beam for resource removal, which costs the same as Linux Futures,
But it
but
has
has
one less rack, yeah.
which is, as I can see, it would be quite relevant in this deck because you run Fires and
Hmm.
the Magical Pony and Chase. They're both giving you two.
Yeah. I think dashes would be a reasonable way to take this. Give it a go.
Yeah, seems like something to think about.
This is why we do these streams.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What about? Let me just get yours set up here.
So my deck is might look familiar because it's the deck I've been like playing to death, like whenever I get a chance, and like a chance where I don't want to experiment with new decks. I play this kind of stuff. So this deck is very similar to what I ran in pretty much everywhere, like Continentals, other tournaments. It's a blue, purple, white troublemaker farm control. Uh, it's basically an adaptation. I think, wow, words are hard. Adaptation of the old list, except now we don't have things like Zeroed Out or like Trixie Troublemaker. So those things had to be changed a little bit. And actually losing Zeroed Out and Napcakes are one of the like heaviest hits for this deck. Because Napcakes was like an essential immediate disruption tool. And it was really good to like stopping confronts for just one AT or something like that. Now we don't have that, and instead of that, I kind of and running power shift in this deck because this deck has a very high flip average. So most of the time it will work. I think it's like 4 something flip average.
4.07, yeah. Essentially 4.
Yeah. Yeah, I do get old money back, but the problem with old money is that she's not immediate, and I've actually considered like cutting her to 2 because while free old money is amazing, I don't know. Like this deck really wants immediate disruptions. In the version I ran in Coco, I didn't have a single immediate disruption except Ultimate Organizers, and that was bad. Didn't like that. So instead of Zeroed Out, this deck now runs Grogger, which is also a troublemaker tutor, but it's kind of so it has its own advantages, like Fridaying everyone on a whim, because you can find another Grogger and do the thing.
Yeah.
But Zeroed Out is more useful because you just play Zeroed Out, like it's not proactive. Zeroed Out is reactive, more or less. Like in a sense, it's more reactive than the Grogger because Grogger you have to play him, then you have to banish him during the right time, and so on. Zeroed Out, you just play, find, and there you go. You have a troublemaker now, and that's one of the like, which is why I think Zeroed Out is like one of the biggest hits for this deck because that was really strong. But we still have Exposed, and Grogger kind of works. And you can also bring back Grogger like by banishing a Grubber because you usually don't care that much about Grubbers. So yeah, from the old list, most of the cards are still intact. Like you still have Embers, you still have Daybreakers, you still have Starlight Glimmers, Luna's Futures as well. It's still all there. But the biggest thing that changed is a problem deck. We don't have as good problems anymore in purple for control.
This is true. This may have been intentional.
Yeah, makes me very sad, but it's okay. We have troublemakers to sit behind and just pray they don't have Middlebrooks. Because, oh boy, this deck suffers from Middlebrooks. Look at all those resources. It's like, oh yeah, I have 3 high Ts in play and a couple of troublemakers. And they play Middlebrook, and you're sad.
Hmm. But there's nothing that these colors can really do about that, eh? I mean,
No, not really. I mean, you can just grubber and
Yeah, you
hope
can
you
try to
catch
grubber it out of
Midorbrooks.
their hands.
So yeah, so like the way to battle Middelbrook in this deck is just don't overcommit. It's just it's like playing against Patio One, right? You just don't spill your entire hand, and once they play Middelbrook, you just then you do the thing.
Hmm.
For instance, like instead of playing three high teas, you play one or two and wait till they waste Middelbrook on that, and then you do the thing. So that's like the only. But it's really hard to do so. Sometimes like you really need to play some stuff.
No, I was just thinking, is this may be a meta where old money is actually. I mean, obviously she's great for the banish, but the fact her Meticulous 2 is almost the better part of the card now, almost just because I she's the only source of Meticulous in this deck, right?
Yeah, so this deck used to run same day delivery, and what I found is that without enough Meticulous, which the only card is old money here, I just end up drawing same day delivery, and I didn't like that.
Hmm.
Like paying 180 to flip a 6 is pretty good and useful sometimes, but I'd rather run something like Power Shift. So
Absolutely.
yeah, this deck used to have same day delivery, and I cut it because it just wasn't working, and I don't feel like I'm cutting anything for more Meticulous. It's really hard to find space in this deck for stuff. Like you can see how hard I
Right.
cut down
It's
Troublemakers. I run
it's
only
pretty
one Storm King.
yeah pretty heavily tuned by the looks of it. Whenever you see singletons in a non-combo deck, that's usually a sign that things have been tuned a bit.
Yeah. Well, with Storm King, I can get away because I can just find Wind with Draugr, and this deck still has enough recursion to bring back Storm King when I need to. And with Ultimate Organizers, it's so this deck didn't used to have this card, and I really wanted it in the deck as like some sort of immediate response. So I found like one room for it. Maybe I'll cut School Shutdown for another one because I'm not sure how School Shutdown how much it is useful right now. It's just like yet to be seen. If it's not useful, I'll cut it. But if it is, I will leave it in.
I mean, you'd think what with all the yellow, that Skull Shutdown should be pretty good.
The problem is a lot of yellow has persistent. Like so in Coco match during round two, I was playing against. I think I was playing against Josh. I don't remember, but they were running Jonas, and they got two of them in early game. And as you can see, a lot of friends that matter here have three or more power. So it's like I'm sitting with hands full of Star Raisins, like, oh, I wish I could play them, but I can't because they have two Jonas. And they both have persistent, so like what am I gonna do about that?
You need two Skull Shutdowns, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, that like I don't know, like so the thing is sometimes when I play even before Wizards and Legends and core rotation, whenever people play that Yona, I was just snapcaking it and hoping people forget about her persistent. And sometimes it works. Sometimes people do forget. Even when you play School Shutdown, they just swipe the entire board and put it on top of the deck, forgetting that Yona has persistent. And once they like stop shuffling and I continue playing, only then they remember.
Hmm. I mean, I guess that's kind of the nature of so many cards. Like even old money, right? But when a card is known in the public consciousness for one specific piece of its text, in the case of Yona, it's the bounce effect, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's people forget about the swift and the persistent, or people forget about the meticulous on old money, or the swift on daring do, say for example, right?
Yeah. But yeah.
I mean, I guess if you find yourself with a lot of Yona around, sorry, safety lecture dismisses frightened stuff, right?
Uh yeah. But the thing is that that's like a specific piece of so I still
Yeah.
have to remove the card twice.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Grogger helps. Grogger is a villain, and we can frighten stuff with that. And that's like one of the ways to battle with persistence is you just frighten it first, and then you do things about it.
Hmm.
Another thing that I kind of want to include in this deck is the Twilight entry, which copies event, because that means more Luna's Futures. And as you might know, this deck does kind of do stuff after the opponent beyond 8 points.
Yep.
It's like, sure, you can get here like 10 points, and only then I'll become active. But yeah, this deck has a very slow startup. But it's still just as fun to play, and it still can do those explosive 7-point turns. That didn't go anywhere. So
Hmm.
yeah, this is one. Like, even though it took a hard hit, in my opinion, like it's not as good as in the previous score. Uh, I think this is still a very fun deck to play, and still my favorite.
All
So
right.
yeah, that's my second deck.
Okay. Well, I do actually have a third one here that I didn't put down in
Oh,
a Discord before, but it's
sure.
it's it's nothing particularly new. It's just kind of the yellow white thing that I've been working on and back, and a variation of the one that I played in Coco. And so, like, this is very close to the deck that I submitted to the commentaries Magic stream, except that I kind of ditched the hats, and it's still yellow white. Because honestly, I feel like, well, as I said, I never really did the hats thing, but the white stuff in the deck was great. Um, if there's anything that I learned from playing you, Hithroc, it's that the 15th point is the only one that matters, or at least it's the one that
It's
matters
true.
most. And so Miss Main is really good. Yeah, in aggro. Um, like actually, I think when you have a deck with Miss Main in it, you actually want to retire your bunyips to home limit because you actually prefer them to be in your discard pile so that you can pull them back later. It's easier to do that than it is to rally them and move them again.
Yeah, the way around card control is some other methods of scoring points other than confronts and face-offs. And not many decks actually do that.
Hmm.
Which is why people get stuck on 14 points. Also, I see the Yona.
Yes.
Mm.
Uh huh. And then
Was this? Yeah?
oh
No, no, no.
yeah, I was gonna also mention High Alert. I think it probably shines best in a deck. Well, okay, it shines best in both control and aggro. Really, I mean, obviously, control likes to have a turn to stabilize, where the opponent kind of has to skip, and then you have a much better position for it. But in aggro, especially in aggro versus aggro, where people are limited really by like both players are capable of DFOing. The thing that limits the rate at which you can score points is the fact that you can only score 3 or 4 per turn off of the DFO. And so in that circumstance, where it's an aggro versus aggro match and we're just kind of trading blows, I can play a high alert and make the opponent basically skip their turn or give me back my bunyips and my unsatisfactory works or whatever. Then I think um, I think that should work really, really well. That can sometimes give you the leg up in what would otherwise come down to just kind of who gets to 15 first.
Yeah. So my thing with High Alert is that, unlike in other games, in this game you keep all of the resources you don't spend.
That's true. Yeah.
And with High Alert, while it does delay them in a turn, they still keep the AT so they can do something next turn. But yeah, it's still very relevant because, like, if you make them skip a turn, next turn there might be like a different amount of points on the board. For instance, like you flip into a free bonus problem, and you definitely do not want your opponent to
Yeah.
score that much. So you can play harder to like make them consider that twice before doing, and then you can take it for yourself. Something
Actually,
like that.
yeah, that's a really good point. That it, for all you out there who may want to have a hint on when to play your high alerts, yeah, it's a great way to. Well, this deck doesn't have high bonus point problems because it's kind of working on losing face-offs with the Novo, but yeah, when suddenly a dangerous problem shows up, high alert's a great way to defend it uh, without really committing much resources.
Yeah. So Noah is a great troublemaker, Buster. Don't like her.
She's
People started running her, and I don't like that.
Yeah, she's great against troublemakers. She's great. I mean, she's not necessarily a card that everyone should include. I just really like it's a card that often surprises people, and I like surprising people with my deck. So yeah, and it obviously helps a lot when that surprise is you winning a face-off that you had no right to win. Um, she's also great with day shift because new problems show up, and you just move Novo up there with one other thing. Actually, no. Well, yeah, you'd move something up, and now if the opponent wants the DFO back, well, they either deal with Novo or else they lose the face-off. Essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like really hard to do a double face-off and not win against like 2 or 4 power. So yeah, I really like Noah. I think I did say that before. That's like it's my favorite ultra rare from Sequestria.
There are a lot of good ultra rares from Sequestria.
Yeah, but this one is the best.
Not like Mullet Dash or Main Six or
Stick.
Thick, yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying they're bad, but they're not my favorite.
Mm,
Different things.
absolutely.
So, did you run something close to this in Coco?
Yes. Coco, I ran the version with the accessories in and with the orange in, but I
Yeah.
I don't like to admit that there was a version of this deck with orange in, because as I told you, that was a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, my thought process was that with accessories decks really, really, really hate removal, because you're essentially making the opponent's removal more efficient by putting more stuff on to a friend. And so if I could find any way at all to run Golden Parachute, I would. Uh, Unfortunately, I didn't calculate the entry possibly, and it was almost impossible for me to actually play it. So that's why the orange came out real fast.
Yeah. But yeah, really cool. As a troublemaker control player, I look at Noah, I look at Hionat, I look at Meadowbrook. They're like all in a row specifically for me,
Yeah,
and I don't like it. Thanks, I hate it, as they say.
exactly. Yeah. And yeah, this deck also illustrates what I was saying earlier, that we've got Meadowbrook, Turning Point, Sanctuary, Friend Resource, Event, all
Yeah,
counter troublemakers.
and Noah is also kind of
Yeah.
because like unless they have some immediate removal, or well, not immediate, but like you have to remove Noah, otherwise you're probably losing your troublemaker. Especially in the blue deck, which runs Embers and Flash Magnus' Shield, which are not helping.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I guess worth pointing out it's going to work is there for removal, but also the -2 power thing gets like almost all of our problems become confrontable with just Nurturing Nature if they've got a -2 attached to them, with the exception of Down the Drain, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's all I've got. And I mean, unless you're hiding one from me as well, that's all I saw from you as well.
Nah, not a core deck at least. I have the Chrysalis, but we talked about it earlier, didn't we?
Did we?
Um, oh, we might have not. I mean, we can talk about a little bit about it if you want to, but
Sure. Uh, there was that list that we shared. Do you have a more recent version of it, or?
nah, I didn't like. So we had like discussions, and I agreed with some stuff, but I didn't actually change the list.
Okay. So, closing off with a little bit of harmony then.
Sure.
Sure. All right. Well, she's your baby. Um, Tell people about her.
It's a Chrysalis combo. We actually had like when I published this deck on Reddit, Cursed had a little bit like Cursed tried to figure out how it works, and it was like fun to hear your like thoughts, the process of how it works and stuff like that. So this is an Infinite AT OTK combo. It uses Orange You Glad and Furball to generate Infinite AT, and then it scores 15 points with Mistmains. The way this works is Chrysalis has the printed ability pay 1 to banish a friend from a discard pile, and Chrysalis gains abilities of that friend. So, what if we banish a friend with Teamwork? Well, that would mean that now Chrysalis has Teamwork, and all friends that share traits with her will have her ability of banishing, all friends at the same location will have the ability of paying 1 to banish a thing and gain its abilities. So what if we made Chrysalis a critter and we gave her ability to Orange? Well, now we can give Teamwork to Orange, and same with Furball. So the main idea is you play Chrysalis, you put B-Suit on her, you play Orange You Glad, you banish a Teamwork on Chrysalis, you banish a Teamwork on Orange You Glad. Now both Chrysalis and Orange have Teamwork. Then you play Furball. Furball gains abilities Orange and Chrysalis, so you get 2 ET back. Playing Furball is essentially free.
And just to be clear, that it does gain the abilities before the when enters play stuff triggers.
Yes.
So that does work.
Yep. And then you give Teamwork to Furball, and now your board state is basically any creature that enters play will give you an AT and put another creature into play, which will give you an AT and put another creature into play, and so on. So at that point, you can play any creature, and you get infinite AT to win the game. So what I really like about this combo, it's very cheap. Relatively cheap. It requires you only 12 AT to go from empty board. This is mostly because it only uses 2 colors. It's only it's only yellow and purple. And if there was some other way to gain AT without purple in yellow, you'd probably run that instead, so you're only using 1 color. And it only requires you 4 cards, I think. So you need Furball, you need Orange, you need Chrysalis, and you need the B-Suit.
Mhm.
And I guess you need Barrel, but like that's not necessary. You might have Fires instead, which you will discard during the game.
You
So
also
you need
to have the stuff in the discard pile.
Yes, so you need 400 cards in hand and 3 cards in discard pile. But thankfully, it can be any Teamwork friend. It's completely irrelevant which Teamwork friends you banish. I still run some Teamwork friends here with useful stuff. For instance, Flamingo is a critter. Yeah, you need another critter, so 5 cards in hand. But there's this little tech here which I really like, and I'll talk about it after I finish with Teamwork. So the reason we run Flamingo here is because it has Teamwork, and you can play it as a critter to go off. So it's like double duty. And the reason we run Trenderhoof is because his ability is good against removal. Can be useful. Maybe. Like, it's better than nothing. And Carboloader is just, I don't know, high flip. something.
Yeah, Trenderhoof, just as an addendum, also has the advantage of a little bit of mind games that most people in Harmony will see Trenderhoof and assume it's a combo, but not necessarily this combo, and potentially
Oh
Destiny
yeah,
drain the Trenderhoof.
yeah, it can be a red herring, like, oh, I discard Trenderhoof, and they Destiny drain it. Oh, that'll be amazing. I hope that happens. Uh, so the little tech I talked about talked about earlier is that with Furball having teamwork and Chrysalis having Bisuit, Chrysalis has Furball's abilities, which is persistent, and when she enters play or gets frightened, she puts a critter into play, which means we could food fight her. So if you ready to go off and your food fight in hand wasn't useful, you can just food fight your own Chrysalis instead of getting like playing critter, because she'll get frightened and put a critter into play. And I think that's very neat, like a little tech. And this is why there are no belly flops here. In the original list, I used to run sonatas and belly flops. But the thing about this deck is that you don't usually have friends in play before you go off. So belly flops aren't that useful without sonatas. And like sonatas plus belly flop were taking out too much space in the deck, so I just replaced her with food fights. And a lot of the things are that are relevant, free power or more anyway. And for other stuff, you have Grogger and Nightmare Moon. So yeah, that's the deck. There isn't much else to talk about here.
Yeah, it's for those who aren't haven't perhaps been thinking about it. Harmony is combo nowadays, essentially.
Have you seen Grandpa's neck that he posted yesterday? It was horrifying.
Oh, I didn't look at it.
Okay, I can post it in the chat.
Okay.
Look at this monstrosity. So the thing with breakfast, actually, there is another like contender to breakfast, which is Mystery at Hope Hollow. Uh, the thing with breakfast over training traditions is that this deck doesn't need colors in the early game. Like, I'd rather flip my main early and get an extra card. Like, once, like it's Royal Breakfast. If you're going first, basically gives you two extra cards because you draw a card at the start of the game, and then you flip your main, and then you get to exhaust your main to draw another card. And I find that's being really valuable, more valuable than an extra color, which doesn't do much in this deck. This deck doesn't need colors really. I guess it needs purple for removal, but like you'll need that anyway eventually. And another thing with training traditions is that it's 4 for the opponent, and Royal Breakfast is 8, and that's a big difference. But Mystery with Hope's Hollow was suggested earlier. Like, as I said, I didn't update this deck yet, but I think Mystery with Hope Hollow might be better here because you can find a Grogger, and Grogger is pretty good. Or you can find the EA, which is also pretty good. So I think that might be worth running instead of like Secret and Royal Breakfast. Just put 2 Hollows. Or Chrysalis, yes. Like I think Hollow is a really good suggestion here. And it might be worth running that instead of Royal Breakfast, even though you can't flip if you're going first on the turn 1.
Yeah. A little preview of what you might see at Vancouver PonyCon in January.
Yeah,
In
I heard
addition,
someone is running that list.
someone might.
Also, specifically against Bugle, I was thinking including T with Discord here. Because it's pretty good against all those Nightmare Moons floating around.
It's true. It's like Harmony is in such a weird space because yeah, you assume Bugle's gonna run Fireworks combo, and you assume that Grandpa's is gonna run Pile, and Pages is gonna run Poppy, and like everybody's got their deck that they like we're the progenitors of, etc.
Yeah.
And
But the thing I like about this deck is that the cards you actually need in hand is very few. You need only five, which is not like seven, where if they play Nightmare Moon, all your combo pieces are gone and you're set. Here you can actually recover after an unfortunate Nightmare Moon. And this is why this deck runs free Pinky Senses, because I think it's like kind of imperial to run them in Harmony nowadays. Another thing, what I really like about this particular combo is that because it's two colored, it's only yellow and purple. You might not necessarily want to go into pink with it. Like you can play purple deck, you can play with Tempest and things like that, and like have a grubber and napcakes and maybe another grubber, like to do some hand disruption before you go off instead of like running EA or Pinky Sense. So like it's quite flexible because it doesn't require you much. But I tried building it via purple and I didn't like it. But it doesn't mean there's not a better way to build this via purple. But I personally settled on pink. And like one of the main motivation for pink was Pinky Sense. Maybe I overvalue Pinky Sense, but I think with like in a combo deck with all other Nightmare Moons going around, kind of have to run.
no, yeah, there's this conversation going on in the chat right now about how Nightmare Moon is like all over the place in Harmony,
Yeah.
and Pinky Sense is a turn one defense. So
Which is completely free. And a nice bonus is that it helps you put either flyers for free into play or teamwork things into discard pile. So this card does a lot in this deck, I think.
yeah,
So here's a sneak peek of Harmony, a deck I've been talking a while ago.
well, yeah, Hithroc has been. Well, you were hinting ever since we first saw Chrysalis that
Yeah.
fun things were happening in Harmony, and I didn't see it. Not even until I looked at the deck list and had the fun time puzzling over it.
But yeah, teamwork hats is fun. Like in general, not even as a combo deck. You can do teamwork hats for other things too. Because with Chrysalis having teamwork, you can basically put any two abilities on one friend. Like from like let's say we're not running orange, but we're running like some other friend and we give the Chrysalis's ability. Now we can give that friend an ability of some other friend and it will have both of them. Like, I don't know, Shoeshine and Thunderlane. There we go.
Wait, that sounds horrifying.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I mean, we do have Hufar for Thunderlane, like, so
It's true.
not too big of a deal, but like, there's the possibilities are endless because giving a single card abilities of two arbitrary cards is pretty good in terms of what you can do. And I found that teamwork is probably the best thing you can do because, ooh, teamwork. Such a horrible keyword makes a comeback.
Yeah, I was mentioning this to you when I first saw the deck, but it really seems like Crystal Games was a terrible set in terms of normal constructed stuff, but it has just been a wellspring as far as combos go. Like so much of the stuff in Crystal Games has been built into combo decks.
See, you'd think that would be absolute discord with all the crazy cards, right?
Hmm.
Yet, so far, absolute discord is one of the few sets which doesn't have a single card ban.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. So, uh, now we're done finally. Those are both the secret decks out of the way. And yeah, I'm going to be going on vacation over the break, so Meticulous Talks will not be on 2 weeks from now, which is Christmas, right? 2 weeks from now. No, 2 weeks from now is, well, it's
It
right in the
is.
it's right in
Yeah.
the middle of that area. Yeah. So we'll be returning on January 11th. Wait, January 11th is Vancouver, isn't it?
Is it? I'm actually not too familiar with the dates.
Pretty sure it's
I mean, we can do it January 4th then,
yeah. That
if
that
it collides with Vancouver. That works for me.
I'm pretty sure Vancouver is 10th to 12th. Um, so yeah, January 4th then will probably be better. And presumably, I think Pages will be back to join us, hopefully. Otherwise, thank you all so much for joining us. If you want to see this or any of our past content, it's all over on YouTube. Link is the solicitations we always put up on Reddit and in. Yep. And I had been falling behind on the uploads, but they're all up there now, including the review stream. So, and this one will be there sometime this afternoon. Otherwise, happy holidays. Good luck with your deck building. I've been Cursor Chords.
Then Hithroc.
I'll see you in 2020.
Bye.